I'm your host, Bouchon, and we got to have a conversation today. We have to have a conversation today. We're streaming live, and let's talk about it. Presidential election, the honeymoon is over. We've seen the reception party, and now, game on. So as nonpartisan independents, we really have this conversation about what we're going to do moving forward as a people, because we are seeing some things going on that we've never seen before. The world is watching and looking at, some things that we've never seen in our lifetimes, because the revolution, will not be televised, but, through the systems and through YouTube and influencers, the revolution will be televised. So my job and my assignment is to actually inform you about what's going on in terms of what you don't see, because we've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray. And this is why we're running amok right now. And then our fearless leaders, who freedom as a slogan, pretty much the assassin's bullet. And the assassin's bullet that took care of Dr. King is a part of what they would call democracy. And they talk about what's the biggest threat to democracy. And we'll get into that. So what are we voting for? Now, the facts are out. The facts are out. What are we voting for? And then I'm going to share some information about a study, about a think tank, information from blogs, from Ivy Leaguers, from people in high places about a possible violation of the RICO statutes at the highest of the highest of the highest. OK, and I'm saying allegedly. These are not my findings. I'm just sharing information with you that I have that I'm privy to, and that's public information. Is none of these things are classified. These things are public, but you have to be in the right circles to get this information. And I have some friends in high places that actually send me documentation and notes and things like that. So what are we voting for? Now, the facts are out. Bottom line, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you, it's not the lesser of two evils. It's not Lucifer versus Satan. It's not this party versus that party. You literally, your only two choices this election, unless you decide to go with God Almighty with us. But if you're a Republican and a Democrat, the choice and the facts and the data is out. And the data says, are you for the data? The data says you either voting for abortion or you're voting for the economy. There are only two choices when it comes to American duopoly. The facts are out. OK, the statistics are out. You could go ahead and look it up. The Wall Street Journal is posting this. It's breaking news. Good morning to you. Good morning. Hello. And you're going to for abortion or the economy. Do you want to abort babies, or do you want to have food in your pantry? Do you want to abort babies, or do you want to have a strong savings account? Do you abort babies? Or do you want money to invest and basically purchase a home? And I'm being honest with you, because we got to have this conversation. If you want to, I'm good at Q&A. So if you have a question, if you want to know where the data is coming from, go ahead and put it in the chat. Colin has already stepped in, and I really understand what we're going on, what's going on. And yes, I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking to you. I'm on the live, and I got it right in my screen. So anything that comes up, we're having a conversation, and there's a few people in the room, more than usual. So I think the click, which is actually factual, is basically breaking it down to the point where this election is not for the lesser of two evils, because the last election was the lesser of two evils. You had, the clergy, our mama and them and grandpa. No, vote for the lesser of two evils. I remember like it was yesterday. No, brother, it's the lesser of two evils. And the last time that I checked, there's no such thing as a lesser of two evils, because as a child, when it's prayer, lead us not into temptation and deliver us from evil, and sometimes deliver us from the evil one. So regardless if it's the lesser of the two, it's still evil. So just like, do you want to, eat trash or eat garbage? Do you want to be shot or murdered? It's the same thing. So we have to really understand and be smart. And okay, your name is Colin. Okay, good morning, Mr. Colin. So now that the lesser of two evils is out the box and that anymore, and if you did not watched the D&D. You know, they played the Christian card, and we'll get into that moving forward because there's no such thing as a Christian card. Because if you look at the Bible, the scribes and the Pharisees, religious individuals that actually killed Jesus. So the scribes and Pharisees will basically green light the assassination of their common threat. And when I say threat, the biggest threat to democracy is the economy. Okay, because the study came out, Wall Street Journal, that 35% of youngsters between the ages of 18 and 29 have flipped Republican since 2016. They put out these statistics in the sense of what's more important. Okay, and then from men's perspective, overwhelmingly, men say that the most important aspect of voting this year, economy. And everyone is feeling the pinch. Everyone is seeing what's going on. And this is how, they could continue with their magic trick. This is how they could continue with their talking points and saying this and saying that when we know that it's not true. Because everybody's feeling the pinch. Okay. Everybody is dealing with the economy. Everybody sees the crime getting out of hand in Democratic states and Democratic cities. Everybody is seeing what's going on. So when the Democrats, they speak on it, it's kind of like, something's going on and they're getting themselves in big trouble because the information is coming out as to why they're fighting so hard to, put a prosecutor in as the president to protect their democracy, because it's not possible, but it's been allegedly confirmed that the Democratic Party has multiple RICO violations. Okay. When I say multiple RICO violations, this is coming from the top down. I'm not that smart. Okay. This is not, me coming up with a conspiracy theory. This is information that is coming from think tanks. This is information coming from the Ivy Leagues, because this is why they are fighting so hard. And when I say RICO, okay, what you're voting for, we're going to, dive more into that. And that's basically you're voting for abortion or the economy. That's another question. But in terms of the RICO, the Democratic Party, the Biden administration is basically allegedly, according to the documentation, is literally in violation of the RICO statutes. And if you didn't know, the RICO statutes is racketeering, influence, and corruption. And that's the acronym of RICO, an act of the United States federal law that provides extended criminal penalties and a civil cause of action for acts performed as part of an ongoing criminal organization. So I know nobody in mind will disagree that the Democratic Party is an organization. The Democratic Party, based on the data that I've privy to, is, and I'm them under the bus. Don't come for me. Go get the information by weaponizing the Department of Justice. Look at the former president, Donald Trump, caught all these cases, all these charges, 34 counts, violation, and he's still running for president. He walked out of the courtroom, jumped on a jet with his name on it, and went down to Mar-a-Lago. How many brothers and sisters and people of color, okay, and people who've been caught in the situation was charged with one count, but they didn't get a chance to walk out the front door. They had to walk through that side door and get pushed in their back. Okay. Now, these Ivy Leaguers, okay, these are individuals who are, I would say, a part of if you look at the back of your dollar bill, that little, the little tip of that dollar bill, these globalists, okay, they can care less either way. They play both sides in terms of violations. And I'm not saying that they're going to be charged, but in terms of violations have been committed, clear violations, because when you look at the RICO, in terms of the influence and corrupt organ, you got to really understand. Now, the attempted assassination, that was one of the documentations that they used, as somebody did a piece on it. The attempted assassination clearly can be proved in a court of law that it was influenced by the Democratic Party. Now, when you say, how is this possible? Because the Democratic Party is the party in control, and they influence not only the world, but they influence media. They influence mass media. They influence social media. And this is why this week, Mark Zuckerberg has actually pulled out of his political stance, because he's decided not to endorse either side. Now, the last prior election, okay, in 2020, he basically donated $100 million from his organizations to the Biden-Harris campaign, and pretty much worked with the Biden-Harris campaign when it comes to the COVID restricting different types of details, to basically shadow ban certain content on his website. And he basically submitted a letter and was totally honest and said that these things are true and factual, and he's going to basically tap out. That's why Jack Dorsey, who was the founder and creator of Twitter, sold Twitter to Elon Musk. And Elon Musk's first thing when he got on was to get rid of the bots and the devices that was actually blocking free speech. So now you got to understand that it comes from the top and the information is coming down. So when you start studying the top and understanding what goes on at the top, you will start to figure it out. So we are seeing, in terms of what the Democratic Party has done to Donald Trump, when they say the biggest threat to their democracy is that the fear is, if he does get back in office, that he's going to flip the script and charge them and do the same thing, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So when you talk about an organization, nobody in their right mind will disagree that our government, our Republicans, Democrats, these are organizations. Okay. Now, when you look at the influence, okay, racketeering is but influence. Okay. When you look at when the Democratic Party, the vice president, okay, and the president at the time, we got to beat Donald Trump and all of this. Okay. Even a psychologist will get on and basically defend, those remarks, and actually from a prosecutorial perspective will basically deem the influence of the federal government from the top down in terms of the assassination attempt. So that's an influence organization. And then we look at the influence that it has over women. Okay, you got women who are fighting, who will be voting for abortion, because the studies have come out and the Wall Street Journal has done an amazing piece on it. And they're basically talking about that women overwhelmingly will be voting for abortion, and a very small percent will be voting for the economy. So, we're voting for either abortion or the economy. So, but to the RICO is clearly an understanding that the RICO, okay, is an influence situation. So all of the smoke that's coming from the Democratic Party is influencing the Department of Justice. It's influencing, and I'm calling out names, Letitia James. It's influencing Alvin Bragg. It's influenced Fonnie Willis. It is weaponized. Jack Black has pretty much, filed additional charges because the Supreme Court came down and kicked out the case that a sitting president can't be charged. So now they're charging Donald Trump as a civilian, because they need him to get those stats and get that case back out to the world, because it's a distraction, because the Democratic Party as a whole cannot hold its own weight. So think about it. Think of and this is top down, allegedly, however you want to call it, top down. And when you say racketeering influence, so I gave you some examples of influence, okay, and it influenced an assassination. Okay, now let's look at the corruption. Okay, racketeering, influence, and corruption organization. Look at the corruption. The Secret Service, and I need y'all to really listen to this. And the Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service, the female, okay, handpicked by Joseph Robinette Biden. She worked for the service for 20 years. And then she went, and what a congressman would say, she went and protected Doritos, because for the last 2 years prior, being hand selected by Joe Biden, she was the security director for the Pepsi Corporation. So she was handpicked. And when you say a DEI, selection, whatever, she was handpicked on the Secret Service. So now you have a handpicked female selected by Joseph Robinette Biden to be the head of the CIA. And then for the first time in modern history, I've seen it with Reagan, and parents seen it with, with Kennedy and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. But in modern history, we've seen an assassination attempt. And just imagine if the influenced individual actually didn't miss his target, or if it didn't turn his head, we would be sitting back right now seeing a presidential candidate head explode, going viral on all of television, on all of mass media, on Instagram, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, on, Reddit, on all the social media platforms. So think about that. So when I say influenced, they influenced the shooter. Okay. The corruption, the hand-picked hiring of the female who ran the Secret Service. And then when she went to the Joint House of Congress, when I say Joint House Congress, these are Republicans and Democrats. She was summoned to the Joint House of Congress. And when they asked her questions, she refused to answer questions. She stonewalled and filibustered. And the next day, she was supposed to come back to the Joint House of Congress, and she resigned. Why would you filibuster and stonewall if you had nothing to do with the corruption or nothing to do with the assassination? So there's your influence and your corruption. And everybody knows that it's an organization. And this is just one situation or scenario that I'm sharing with you today, when there's a plethora, limited amount of information and details that can actually prove a point. So when they say that Donald Trump is a threat to their democracy, no, they are the biggest threat to democracy, because if they do not become, or if they fall out of office and then you get a Republican in office, their biggest threat, they believe and feel that their life is dependent on it, that they may get charged, that there may be jail time, jobs are going to be lost. Because when RFK Jr., think about the corruption, okay? When RFK Jr. decided to drop his case, and Trump said that he will make him a cabinet member, and he basically said he will give him a job, and he will allow him to be the head of a organization or head of a part of the government that will go through the documentation. He will declassify classified information to find out what really happened to RFK Jr.'s uncle, JFK, John F. Kennedy, and his father, Bobby Kennedy. So think of how long this corruption has been going on. So this is when you say, democracy. America is not a democracy. Okay. It's a constitutional republic, to the republic for which it stands, nation under God. Democracy means you can assassinate or attempt to assassinate your opponent. You can kill, steal, and destroy their character. You can their money. You can lie, cheat, and do all of these things. And this is why there's individuals out there that are leery about the system. And this is why you have a large group of people that are literally pulling out this action and talking about not voting. But we're starting a third party coalition because we have to vote. Democracy, the root of the Democratic Party here in America is not good. So when you hear a presidential candidate in 2024 talk about freedom and throw freedom all on the board because they don't want to go back to what freedom truly meant. And freedom truly meant let freedom ring for all races, all nationalities, and all ethnicities. But all of a sudden, the Democratic Party, the word freedom for a woman's right to control her body. And all you do is just not get pregnant, put a condom on, get some birth control. So why we have to be in 2024? Why we in 2024 have to decide on abortion or food in the pantry? Abortion or food in the pantry. Okay, I got some comments coming in. One day with Biden or 15 minutes with Trump. Man, give me 10 minutes with Trump. I'm gonna get some investing secrets. I'm gonna get some believe me, I'll have the right questions. I'll take that one day. I'll take that 15 minutes, because if I spend a day with Biden, if you didn't know, he's on vacation and all we going to do is sleep at the beach. So it's a thing to be a black man born and raised in these United States and feel that I don't have to be torn between the two sides. There's a science to that. So I'm practicing my freedoms to make an educated decision, hyper local, and to pretty much support the third party coalition. And that's the Christ campaign. But that's a whole nother conversation. But when you talk about the biggest threat to democracy, you got to understand that they are fighting for their survival, because everything's coming out. And I appreciate you. We got a sister all the way from India. Okay. But follow world news. But And if you're from India, you're a family member. Kamala Harris, if you was in the United States, I'm sure you're voting for her for the first Indo-Jamaican to be on the ballot. But we really got to talk about this. And what I say is it's coming, like I said, it's top down. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a proven fact. So will they be charged? I would say no, because in the case, it would be opening up Pandora's box and everybody can actually be charged. But in terms of a RICO, you really got to understand. We understand that politics is a huge racket. OK, the influence aspect, influence the attempted assassination on Donald. The corruption was the handpicked hiring of the Secret Service director that allowed this breach of security with the actual attempted assassination and the organization as a whole. And we all know as an organization. And somebody from India put in the comments, okay, she's crazy, laughing my A off, Trump all day. And that's somebody that's of Indian descent, of Asian descent, of Indian descent, that's not even supporting, because we do know what's going on. So I'm just saying to you is, let's rise to the occasion. Let's have these conversations. Let's be men and women and really figure out what's going on, because it's kind of like, they're playing us, and they are pretty much expecting us to continue to practice what we call insanity. So we can't do that anymore. So we got an opportunity to do what's right. We got an opportunity to change the game, and we got an opportunity to liberate ourselves, because freedom literally means in this year's election, freedom to exterminate unborn children. So in the comments, what's more important to you, an abortion or the economy? Because these are the two choices based on the Wall Street Journal's op-ed. And it's basically saying that 70% of Democrats are supporting the Democratic side or supporting Kamala is because of abortion. And then if you flip the other side, 68.7%. So let's go ahead and round it up to 70% of individuals that are for Donald Trump is voting for the economy. And number two, border protection. He's talking about building the wall. And then when you talk about, there's a violation of RICO, which is called bribery. OK, and bribery. And if you did not know, yesterday, the Supreme Court literally shut down Biden's canceling debt. And this is fresh hot off the presses. And I'm going to basically just read some of the headlines. Supreme Court refuses to revive Biden's latest student loan debt relief. That's NBC News. CNN is stating Supreme Court leaves Biden's new student loan repayment plan blocked. Washington Post, Supreme Court blocks Biden's new student loan repayment plan for now. New York Times, where does Biden's student loan debt plan stand? And the Associated Press, Supreme Court of Biden's administration plea to restore multi-billions of dollars of student loan debt. So think about that. And the reason why the Supreme Court shut it down is because of bribery. Because if this would pass, it is too close to an election. Think about it. If this was to pass, it is too close to election. So therefore, you would have individuals with student debt voting Democratic just because of student loan debt. That's bribery. And that also goes to the case of the RICO bribery. Think about it. OK. And like I said in the comments, Trump all day. OK. Anyone on has the heart or the courage to say Harris? No, they don't. OK, because we know what's going on, so we can't be hoodwinked and bamboozled. Like I said, it's to be astonishing to see what happens. OK, see, our coalition, we know what we're doing. OK, let's go Trump. Let's go, y'all, 2024. So we know what we're doing. We're registered Democrats and we're abandoning the party. OK, but instead of going to the Republican Party, we will not have a voice in the Republican Party. But we know what we're doing with handicap, hurt the Democratic Party. So think about this. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg is the founder and CEO of Facebook. OK, in the COVID in 2020 clearly over. They changed the algorithm and was supporting the Biden administration. He went on record, Mark Zuckerberg, and said that he donated $400 million to their campaign, not 400,000, $400 million to them, in which he could have gave. It's only 48. Like he could have gave every American $1 million. I don't know the stats on that, so I'm not going to say that. But he donated $400 million to the Biden-Harris administration for the 2024 election. So now he says that he's not going to change the algorithm. He says that he's not going to support or endorse either party. So who does that hurt? Who does that hurt? It's kind of like you were married and you're supporting your spouse, and then you get a divorce, but you don't remarry. So you're literally making a grand statement. It's like sorry, not sorry. Okay, because he's making that he's not supporting the Democratic Party. So if he does not support the Democratic Party, by default, he's basically leaning towards the economy. Okay, because aborting babies should not be number one topic for any political stance. And if you do not know, J.D. Vance is one of 7 governors, okay, who govern a state where there's no term limits on abortion. And Governor Tim Walz, I'm saying from Minnesota, he signed an executive order for no term limit abortion. So think about that. Okay, we got another Let's Go Trump. Let me see here. Hispanic Democrat voted from New Jersey, and I'm voting for Donald Trump. Wow. So listen, the revolution is not being televised. Okay, so this is why, I put in the caption, a revolution will be televised, because they know that we will be just 3 degrees of separation, that we will have social media, be able to talk and have these conversations, because a lot of the litmus test and a lot of the world is leaning towards the Republican side. And we're leading towards it's and freedom, because we never been freed and liberated as a people here in America. The Democratic Party sacrificed black alpha males. The Democratic sacrifices black alpha males. And if you did not know, the Democratic Party, clearly, if the abortion party, if the number one call to action is for abortion, then that's pretty much they're seeking, of women. Okay, that's literally supports the woman and the suffrage movement. And if you think about women's rights, with back in the day, if you think about women's rights, it's a clear indication. We are doing what we need to do. When I say a clear indication, I'm saying there's a clear indication that they're going after the woman, and women's rights, came along with human rights. Women's rights came along with everything else that we were doing. So we really got to understand that. So let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be brutally honest with ourselves. Women's rights came with civil rights. So now that the Democratic Party is doubling down, going after the women by a stronghold, and going after the women by a stronghold, we got to really understand what's going on. Okay, my devices, starts to trip out. I'm going to continue because, like I said, the powers that, don't want us having this conversation, but we're going to continue having this conversation. And as soon as we tap in and there's a large group of people, they start, doing, little things and glitches, but that's okay. So they're doubling down on women. And now that we are, and I think women is a charged word, because now that we're doing what we need to do as a people, we got to understand, go ahead and take her. Okay, because they're doubling down on the women. You could have the woman, that's fine. But in a sense of the economy is very important. The economy is very important to everybody, including women. So when we sit back and have these conversations and really sit back and want to conversate as a people, we got to really understand what's really going on. And what I'm saying is voting for the economy versus abortion, and the Democratic Party is literally focusing on that. This is what you call a grand distraction and a grand takeover. And when I speak on the alpha male, it's the science of Willie Lynch. Okay, and I'm not going to go into that because I love African American studies. I love Reconstruction, the slavery era, 1619, and all of that. But I'm not going to go into it. But The Democratic Party main group are women of all kinds, all sorts, especially when it comes to abortions and women's, freedom to do whatever. Number two is gay men and beta men. Okay. Now, gay man is number two, the gay and queer black man. And then the beta male, when I say beta male, it's the male that does not fight for the rights of everybody, but fights for the rights of everything other than himself. But more importantly, he fights for his sexual preference. See, a man, an alpha male job is to protect man, woman, and child. And the pecking order is God, man, woman, and child. Okay. And our woman is connected to us. But when you sit back, change the race, and we don't fight for, rights for black folks or rights for all people, you have individuals fighting for the rights of their sexual preference. This is why, we're free to love who we want to love and all of this and all of that. But you got a man who will not promote fornication. OK, a man that's not married, he will not go out and promote no fornication. He's not going to do that. He's not going to do it. He's not going to promote fornication. He's not going to promote anything outside of who he is. But when you have the growth of the woman, the investment in the woman, the Democratic Party that's their checkmate, or that's their trump card, is the woman. And then they expect the beta male to follow behind, because the beta male says a happy life, a happy wife, but alpha males say an unhappy husband will be your husband. So it's supposed to be a fair exchange, no robbery, but they expect you to sacrifice who you are as a man to support something, laws and legislation that has nothing to do with you, just so you can have the likability of a woman. So this is why you have the Roland Martins. This is why you have the Ricky Smileys and the Steve Harveys, because their audience is women. OK, and this is why I'm so grateful that, I did not have to sell my soul or to sell out, or my platform was to grow outside of, what I believe in as a man. I held my ground, and all of a sudden right now the things are catching up. So now this is the moment in time that we're supposed to do, what's right, because it's not, sometimes you early, sometimes you're too late, and sometimes you're right on time. And it's not the people, it's the party. And Kamala Harris is just the wrong time. And when you look at the data, you got to follow the data. So the party of the women, the party of the gay queer man, which is black or white, and then the beta male, who's pretty much the man that wants the, women to like them, and they are not willing to stand on anything. Because if like for me, I look at the word, and when I read the Bible from the beginning, the only mistake that Adam made is that he hearkened unto Eve. He hearkened unto Eve and not to God. So now they got a woman who is the daughter of immigrants, whose father is a Marxist. OK, and she's the daughter of immigrants, and she does not have, the trauma of post-traumatic slave syndrome, which a book by Dr. Joy DeGruy. I'm giving her a shout out. She wrote a brilliant book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And she does not have the lineage, because a lot of us can trace our heritage through ancestry.com back to the Deep South, back all the way to 1619. And this is why we're, where we are. And this is why they talk about freedom, and their freedom is freedom to abort babies. And when I think about freedom, I think of Dr. Martin Luther King, let freedom. That's who I think about. Let freedom ring, Dr. King. And when he was talking about freedom, he was talking about racial freedom and discrimination. And when they say we can't go back, meaning they don't want to go back and identify the truths, identify what happened, which got us on this trajectory to be led into the demise of a racial group of people who literally are being exterminated through the Planned Parenthood program, which is the eugenics society. And that's all it is. And turn us into an ethnicity, and then get us to focus on our sexual preference. And then what? So this is why when they say we're not going back, OK, this is why we got to get off, because we're going in the wrong direction. And if you don't want to go in the direction that they're going in, then you need to get off as well. Because if they're investing in abortion and they're sacrificing the economy to do it, then that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. That is troublesome. That is weird. That is something that we literally need to understand as a people. And this is something that we got to do as a people. And that's come together and understand what's really going on. So the data is there. The facts are there. And the facts say that the Democratic Party is if a vote for the Democratic Party. So let me see here indirectly when they tell us to, you don't want Donald Trump. We got to beat Donald Trump. But then the question was, what are we voting for? And the answer is we're voting for abortion. And then on the flip side of that, if you're voting for the Republican, it's not flesh and blood. It's not man. It's the policy over party. So if you vote for the other side, you're voting for the economy. So you got to make a choice between supporting a party that wants to abort children as their number one call to action, or voting for the economy, and number two, a secure border. And then if you think about the RICO, the racketeering statutes in terms of the violations that has been deemed by the Ivy Leaguers, the violations clearly they influence a racketeering, influence corruption organization. They literally influence the shooter to make an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The corruption is the hire by Joseph Biden to hire the head of the CIA, who was 2 years removed, not the CIA, but the Secret Service, who was 2 years removed from the Secret Service and was working for the Pepsi Corporation, and selected by Biden to run the Secret Service. And then this happens, and he stonewalls and filibusters and not answer a question in the Joint House of Congress. And then all of a sudden, it is what it is. It is what it is. So we got to just understand what's going on. And like I said, my devices are going crazy. And this is, it is what it is. So let me see here. Let me get in these comments. Let me see here. I'm a Hispanic and I'm with Donald Trump. I'm from New Jersey. Let me see. Vote blue. Go with Kamala Harris. And that's Nacho Alamo. OK. And, God bless you, because Jesus did not come to change the scribes of the Pharisees. So my job is just to give you information. OK, and not to convince you to go either way. But the third party option, we're writing in Jesus Christ, which will be a safe vote for the American individual. And this is what we're doing. But in a sense of doing what we do, we got to figure this thing out. We got to figure this thing out. And like I said, these things are literally, on a whole nother level. So listen, go ahead and tap in, hit those notifications, and iron sharpens iron. So my devices are tripping right now. I'm seeing sexual conduct. They're erasing the content. They're erasing you guys' comments. They're basically saying that I'm flagging your comments so it won't actually come up, because they don't want this conversation to be had. And we know who the powers are. We just talked about it. OK, so this is, to me, this influence, corruption. It's an organization trying to stop freedom of speech, because the truth is their biggest threat. So it's literally crazy, because this message deleted by Better Black America View, deleted message. I'm not deleting anything. But these devices are going crazy. So I will figure out. And this is crazy. So, and like I said, as we speak, this thing is going crazy. So somebody go ahead and screenshot these things, and, we're going to figure it out. So let me see here. Yeah, well, these things are going crazy. So listen, I know I got more comments than this, and they're reading them as we go. So the truth shall make us free. Iron sharpens iron. And it's really time to just get to that next level. So with that being, look, there it go again. They're canceling things. So with that being said, man, you have a great day. I'll be tapping back in. The truth will make us free. Peace out.